In a recent teleseminar, I recall you saying that a low-carb, high-fat diet is dangerous for children, and rather you promote a low-carb, high-protein diet. Can you elaborate regarding why it is dangerous? Does the same apply to adults, and how do you determine the threshold between the two? Okay, so they're really fine-tuning, it sounds like.
Well, I think we discussed this on a prior video.
Yep.
I have seen parents totally eliminate protein from their diets, from their children's diets.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen children who stopped growing. In fact, that mother that I was telling you about previously, who called me only when she had trouble, one of the times she called me was when she took a kid to the pediatrician, and they said he had stopped growing even though his blood sugars were good. And I said, what's he's eating? And she had taken away all protein.
What was the attempt was to...
I'm surprised he was alive.
But the attempt was to remove the need for insulin and minimize insulin?
Yeah. She had discovered that she had to cover protein with insulin. Now, he was already getting insulin, but the more protein you eat, the more insulin you need.
Yeah.
Not gram for gram carbohydrate requires more insulin, but protein requires insulin too. And you need, and every cell in your body needs protein. And I get these reports. I've seen new patients. Family comes in with a kid, and we read your book, and we put him on a high-fat, high-carbohydrate, no-protein diet, and he's not growing. It doesn't say that in the book. In fact, I've been accused of saying the opposite, which I find hard to believe. Maybe I did say it, unlimited protein, and that's not true either. We all need protein, and there are ways of calculating in theory how much you need if you're an adult, but if you're a kid, it's much more difficult, because if you're growing, you may need a lot more protein than an adult needs. Yeah. So it's complicated.
Oh, my son is eating like he's approaching puberty. He's about 12 years old. He's eating so much food, but we watch his growth chart. His growth chart before type 1 was 80% height and 50% weight. When he went into DKA, he fell off his growth chart. We fought for 6 months to a year to get him back on his growth chart. And we tested him the other day. He's 80% and 50%. So that means to me, he's eating the right amount of protein. Is that a good way to go?
That's one way to go. Okay. There's another way that I use, which is, do they feel too full? With a growing kid, you may want to give them as much as you can that they can tolerate. Mm-hmm. You don't want to overload them so that they're uncomfortable, and so that one day they'll eat the whole meal and the next day they won't. So I start off with and I negotiate with the kids. They come with their parents, and if they're old enough to negotiate the meal, I ask them, how much can you handle? And then they go home, and for one meal they'll say, I'm too full at breakfast, you have to cut it down, and at dinner I'm not getting enough, so you have to raise it. Mm-hmm. So you keep playing it by ear based upon how they feel about it, because usually kids eat what they need.
Right.
Sort of makes sense.
Right.